With a 24-hour news cycle and a non-stop crypto social media barrage, it can be difficult controlling your emotions and not getting carried away with your buying and selling. So here's Bitcoin investing simplified. Today we're going to be looking at how to simplify our BTC investing and in paying homage to the traditional saying, if in doubt, zoom out. And it still holds true to this day, as true as ever perhaps. What we can see here is the Bitcoin open interest chart, and this is the current total value of all open derivative contracts for Bitcoin. And what we can do, we're on the hourly chart here, we can see this is swinging by billions of dollars every few hours. I've removed the Bitcoin price because, to be honest, it's not really needed just to see how wild these swings are to the upside and the downside. People placing their bets, trying to maximize their gains, but ultimately probably doing the opposite, probably losing out on their BTC, potentially in the early stages of a bull cycle. We can look at something like the Fear and Greed Index. I've just isolated it to the previous cycle we saw, and we can see how quickly this flips from extreme greed to extreme fear to extreme greed and back again. This is a never-ending cycle of investor emotions just getting the best of them. And to be honest, it's not too surprising. If we look at the Bitcoin news cycle, like we said, it's pretty much non-stop. It's very easy to get overwhelmed, especially on social media. Sometimes it can feel like there's non-stop things you're missing out on if you're not involved 24 hours a day. You can feel like there's people making millions of dollars, and if only you could spend a little bit more time, then maybe you could do the same. But ultimately, as we can see from all of these news events, pretty much all of them can just be ignored. You can take a step back, zoom out, and perform vastly better than a vast majority of people. If we look to this chart here, this is the Bitcoin monthly chart. All of that noise, all of that news, all of those social media posts ultimately can be whittled down to maybe 6 or so actionable signals. If we look at when to sell above this investor tool, if we look to buy when we're beneath this green investor tool line, it doesn't really get much simpler than that. And especially considering how long it takes for these signals to occur, maybe you can wait months, a year or two at a time before you really need to spend any time committing to this. And even then, it doesn't need to be too complex. What we can do is something like a dollar cost average tool. We can see here that dollar cost averaging into positions has actually historically worked very well and outperformed a vast majority of things. You don't even need to be looking at the charts to decide when to start accumulating your BTC, especially if you implemented this dollar cost averaging system based on something like this. So you could say, maybe we only start averaging in once we're beneath this line. Maybe we start only averaging out when the MVRVZ line is above the value of 4 or 5. Anything like this can really help simplify your investing. And like we said, like we can see from so many countless examples and shorter time frame charts of people trading derivatives, trading on emotions and bias, historically they actually massively underperform. We can even remove the Bitcoin price. So there's not the noise, there's not the pressure, there's not the overwhelming sight of seeing the dollar value fluctuations. We can just focus on the metrics on their own. We can just look at the MVRVZ and it tells us exactly what we need to do without even looking at price action. We can see the green buy areas down here. Maybe you start dollar cost averaging in. And like we said, maybe we don't wait for the red signals in the top buy area here. Maybe we only start selling once we're above a valuation of 4. And of course, this is much easier said than done. Everyone's going to point towards the fact that we're on the verge of the next recession. Everyone's going to point towards the fact that the next new great Bitcoin killer is out there, the next big altcoin, that inflation's running rampant, that you need to be accumulating, you need to be selling, you need to be trading actively. Ultimately, all of these are just noise. I think the number one thing that you need to be focusing on ultimately is Bitcoin's price. That kind of absorbs all of this noise. It absorbs all of these signals. It absorbs all of the information to the point where all you need to be looking at is 1 or 2 different metrics. Very simple. It doesn't need to be based on a frequent trading strategy, taking into account a million different data points. Ultimately, even the things you see on YouTube, I know we try to educate and teach as much as possible, but if it improves your investing, catch up once a month, say hello, drop a like. But ultimately, if that's all that needs to be done for your strategy to make sure your investing is as efficient, as profitable, and you're maximizing its potential as much as possible, then there's no need to overcomplicate. You don't need to overcomplicate things for the sake of complexity. I think the biggest misconception in Bitcoin investing is that a lot of people think there's a direct parallel correlation between time spent in front of the charts and the chances of being incredibly profitable, the chances of success. If anything, it's an inverse correlation. To some extent, if you're spending every hour a day in front of the charts, not even to mention the mental fatigue, not even to mention the undoubted biases that'll creep in, the underlying sentiment changes based on the news cycle, based on what you're seeing other people do on social media, ultimately it gets difficult. And I think just zooming out, even if it's only for a few weeks, few days even, just to get a little bit of a break, get a little bit of a breather, I think you'll notice that you can come back and really you've not missed anything. I think that's the biggest takeaway, is that Bitcoin investing, especially with a number of just simple tools, dollar cost averaging in, you're going to outperform a vast majority, and it's going to make the whole experience considerably easier, simpler, and stress-free. So just to summarize, with lots of fundamental news events, social media noise, and price action volatility, it can be very easy to get overwhelmed with your Bitcoin investing. And the popular saying of when in doubt, zoom out is as true today as it maybe ever has been for Bitcoin, especially with the explosion of interest in Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. It seems like there's more and more to take into account, more and more you need to acknowledge every single day. But ultimately, that's really not the case. A handful of simple metrics and infrequent checking of price is really all that's needed to do well. And contrary to what may seem intuitive, there's absolutely no guarantee that more time spent looking at charts, reading news, reading whatever, equates to a better and more profitable outcome. If you just keep things simple, stress-free, relax, not only does it make the process probably even more successful, but considerably easier and more enjoyable too. If you like this video, then please visit lookintobitcoin.com, where you can also consider becoming a site subscriber to gain access to professional resolution charts, advanced macro and portfolio data tools, in-depth crypto industry reports, live and personalized indicator alerts, private TradingView scripts, and more, all for a fraction of the standard industry price. And one thing I even forgot to mention is the alerts we have on Look Into Bitcoin. I know this is a bit of a shill, but these make things so much easier. I don't have to check the charts every single day. I know I'm making content, but ultimately I get a lot of these ideas just based on these alerts. They just come into my email box every single day or whenever these alerts occur. And it makes the entire process so much simpler. You can turn them on or off, and then based on your strategy, you can say, yes, I want to see a Puer multiple email alert, and bang, there you go, actionable email, straight into your inbox, easy peasy. So I really do recommend a Look Into Bitcoin site subscription. Even if you're not wanting to check all of our metrics and charts every single day, I do think it can massively simplify and improve your analysis and investing. And let me know in the comments down below and on social media, what are your thoughts when it comes to BTC investing? Are you keeping things nice and simple, or are you trying to check the charts as much as possible? Obviously, if you're a more frequent trader, then you have to at least be somewhat involved with the current events. But as I said, let me know. I look forward to reading and replying to all of them. Thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.